Somebody left a comment on my video about the last generation of church musicians, and I want to read that comment to you word for word. He said, "Dude, you could have ended this video in 5 minutes. Church musicians are retiring from church because there was never any money in it." You know, I've been a church musician for over 30 years now, and I think I've spent every single one of those years wanting this dude to not be right. But this video is me admitting that he is, and what that actually means, because it doesn't mean what you think it means. See, the chain didn't break, it went broke. So here's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the deal that made this whole craft last 100 years without money. The exact day that deal died, with the math from the church's own spreadsheet, and the thing the young musicians figured out before we did. Now, I haven't just played for churches for 30 plus years. I've led and directed choirs, I've been on teams, and I've been on executive boards, and I've been in the room where budget decisions got made, and I've seen the music line on those budgets. So let me be clear about what this video is not. This is not a greed video. I'm not going to be here telling you to squeeze your church. And I'm going to be honest with you about something that most people making videos like this won't say. And that is, the truth is, some churches just can't pay. Their memberships are falling off, they're losing people, and their budgets and money coming in is falling right along with it. That's real. But the can't pay churches and the won't pay churches have one thing in common. And that one thing is actually what's killing us. Nobody will say the numbers out loud. So let me ask you a question before we even get started. In all your years of playing for churches, has anyone ever put your number in writing? Now, hold that answer. I'm going to come back to it. All right. So if there was never any money in it, how did this thing last for 100 years? How did we get generation after generation of world-class musicians out of rooms that barely paid? Here's the answer that nobody says. The old musicians were paid, just not in cash. They were paid in 3 distinct currencies. The first currency was the bench itself. This is the one from my original video. See, what happened was a kid sat close, a veteran noticed, and a 40-year conservatory education started happening that nobody charged a dime for. You couldn't buy that training anywhere. The church was the only school in the neighborhood, and the tuition you paid was just showing up. The second currency is what I call the standing. See, the organist was somebody. Like, say the name of your childhood church musician right now. You can, can't you? It was a named role, and it was a respected craft. The whole building and neighborhood and community knew who those hands belonged to. And that's not nothing. That's identity. The third currency was the doorway. See, the church skills fed the market. There's a subscriber and follower of my channel who got to play drums for Reverend James Cleveland and Matty Moss Clark and Twinkie Clark and a lot of gospel artists. Where do you think that started? See, the church bench was the on-ramp to all of the paying markets in the city. See, your grandfather's organist wasn't unpaid. He was just paid in currencies that the church doesn't print anymore. So what happened? Well, it's 3 things, and they all stack. First, as I said, the currency stopped being printed. So the organ bench disappeared. That's the story I gave you 2 videos ago. And the standing that I mentioned, that went silent and it went dark. A keys player asked in the comments of one of my videos, am I a mime or am I a keys player? That's what's left of standing now. But here's the part this video is about. See, while those currencies were dying, The cash math showed up to finish the job. A minister of music left a comment that lays this whole sequence out. And I want you to hear this in his words. He says it started when churches began downsizing their bands to save money. Suddenly, the aux keys guy who plays the horns and strings part is let go. Then the organist, followed by the guitarist. The tracks are used to compensate for missing instrumentation. Read that back slowly. That's not a sound decision, that's a layoff order. And this same man, I want you to hear what happened to him because I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. At the end of 2025, his church let the whole band go. They cited budgetary issues and they even let the sound man go too and replaced him with a volunteer. And they kept one person, him, the guitarist, the minister of music. And you know what they kept him for? To program the tracks that replaced his own band and to play on top of them every Sunday by himself. His own words, he says, I'm a musician, not a DJ, and he resigned from the position back in April. And when somebody asked him why churches are doing this, this was his verdict. These are his own words, not mine. He says the point is money. For some shrinking churches, it seems to be the survival strategy. But honest opinion, at my former church, I felt like the leadership was trying to find a way to keep more money for themselves. Now, I can't look inside that church's books, but I have been in enough churches and on enough executive boards at churches to tell you that his story is not rare at all. No part of it is rare. And here's why. Let me run the math the way those budget meetings run it, because I've sat in those rooms. See, the tracks subscription only costs the church about $30, $40 a month, maybe. And one halfway decent paid musician is going to cost you about $250 a Sunday. And that's $1,000 a month. And if you got 5 or 6 musicians on stage, that's about $6,000 a month. So when the budget gets tight, the people making those spreadsheets don't hear and see music. They see $6,000 a month versus $40 a month. The tracks was never a music decision. They were a budget line. And guess what else? Tracks never get sick. They never ask for a raise, and they never need to hear thank you. But also, tracks never trains the kid that's sitting behind it. Another commenter said this in 9 words. He says, we've traded talent for 100 tracks. And listen, even where the check and the cash survived for paying musicians, it froze. $100 a Sunday in 1995 is equivalent to about $200 a Sunday today. So if you're making that same $100 a Sunday today, you didn't keep your pay. You've been taking a pay cut in slow motion for 30 years and calling it faithfulness. All right, now let's talk about the young musicians, because everybody wants to call them lazy and unspiritual and say they don't want to serve and all of that. But here's what actually happened. They're the first generation who saw the whole budget ledger before they signed it. Think about what that kid actually watched growing up. He saw the veteran church musician get phased out at 40-something years old with no contract and no pension to show for it. And he saw guilt show up every time the issue of money was brought up. A random man asked a question in the comments on my last video. He said, is playing music at church even worth bothering anymore? That's a grown man doing the math on all of this in public. Now imagine a 19-year-old doing that same math. And while you're imagining it, walk the church budget line with me for a minute. When the baptism pool breaks or springs a leak, they call a plumber. Nobody tells the plumber to do it for the Lord. He sends an invoice and the church pays for it. Everybody stays saved. I live in a southern state and it gets really hot in the summertime. And when a church's AC goes out, they call the people to come fix it and they pay for it. Somebody in my comments even pointed out that churches finance these haze machines that they have. So you walk that budget from top to bottom, and every single line has a number on it, except one. The very line that made that room worth walking into stayed at volunteer. So let me ask you a question. How many of you were told it's a ministry and not a job inside the same room where everybody else was getting a check? Now, somebody is already typing it because a version of this got left on my last video. This guy says he's baffled that so many Christian musicians complain about their pay. He said, we're supposed to be servants of the Lord. And I'm not going to preach at this dude. I don't have to. My comment section answered him already. Another musician replied with this. He said, God himself established compensation for tabernacle musicians, and that's in Numbers 18 and 21 and Nehemiah 13 and 10. So don't take it from me. Take it from the comment section who's quoting the book of Numbers. So the young musicians, or the YMs as I refer to them, aren't refusing the craft. They're refusing the deal. And you can't guilt a generation of people into poverty. So let's connect this video with my last two because they're all one story. Video 1, the bench disappeared. Video 2, the sound disappeared. In this video, the reason disappeared. No money means no future. No future means no reason to sit close. And no reason to sit close means no next link in the chain. You can't apprentice into a job that doesn't exist. And let me be honest with you about the emotional part, because this was never about getting rich. Nobody ever sat under that organist because of the check. That was never the accusation. But nobody stays for 30 years on guilt alone either. Every craft that has ever survived because the trade was worth something and everybody could see what it was. So what do? Well, it's 3 moves, and none of them are charge more. That's a different conversation altogether. These 3 are about honesty. Move number 1, say the numbers out loud. Have the conversation with your leadership. And here's the language to use. I'm not asking for the church to get rich off of me, nor me get rich off the church. But I would like to know what the number is. Put it in writing, put it on paper. And here's the reason this works. Silence is the only soil where resentment and exploitation both grow. And putting it on paper is how a church learns to see the role as professional. See, perception is value. And if you don't do it, you'll keep paying the difference for it out of your own pocket every Sunday and calling it ministry. Now, if you don't know what that paper is supposed to look like, I built the exact templates and the exact scripts for you. It's in my church musicians contract and payment kit, and it's completely free, and you can find it in the link of the description of this video, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. Move number 2 is to retire the whole guilt tax thing. So the whole it's a ministry should start with the conversation about money, not end it. Because every other ministry in that building has a budget line. So when the guilt shows up, here's your actual language. You say, I love ministry and I love being here. And it's why I'm being honest with you about this instead of quietly quitting or quietly leaving. Because if you don't retire that guilt, understand that it doesn't retire when you do. It stays there and it gets passed down to the next kid that's going to be on the keys. And move number 3, rebuild the deal for the kid. If your church cannot pay cash, then pay in the old currencies that I mentioned and do it on purpose out loud. Real training, real credits in a named role, the bench. And say it plainly. Say, we can't pay you much, but here's what we can give you. And here's what it's worth. The old deal worked for 100 years because everybody could see the trade. And if you don't rebuild it, The kid always does the math alone, and the math alone always says leave. So let me land the plane on this. You were never in it for the money. Nobody is accusing you of that. But the musicians who taught you were paid in currencies that don't exist anymore. And pretending otherwise isn't faithfulness, it's how the chain ends. That commenter that I mentioned at the beginning that told me I could have ended the video in 5 minutes because there was never any money in it was right about the money. But here's where I push back on it. That sentence is only the end of the story if we keep whispering about it. Say the number out loud, because an honest number beats a holy silence every single Sunday. I'll see you in the next video.